Okay, I'm going to show you how to take a 24 peg loom, any 24 peg loom, just so long as you use a yarn equivalent. I'm using worsted weight, which is a little heavier for a 3/8 inch gauge, but it keeps the stuffing, where you can stuff the animal, firmer with the polyfill. Okay, so I'm going to be using a 3/8 inch gauge 24 peg loom to make a seamless bunny. You can use the larger gauges if you would like. As I said, you can use any 24 peg loom. So if you've got it, you can use it. It doesn't have to be this gauge. I'm using some scrap yarn. I kind of like making the stuffed animals with. It's not a little bit of scrap yarn, but it's enough to where I can make a stuffed animal. So what I want to do in order to make this is I'm going to work from the bottom of the animal to the head, okay? And so what I want to do at this point is I want to drawstring cast on. What I like to do is hold the yarn back a little bit, go to the back of the next peg and weave, okay? So we're going to weave that around, okay? Then we're going to toss that over gently because you've got it wrapped down here. You're going to go in and you're going to toss every other stitch over that you just created with your weave. And this is your drawstring cast on. Now I'm going to tell you a trick. If you want to make this animal bigger without having to lose your tightness, you can follow the concept I do for my teddy bear revamp video, where you can knit a row and e-wrap a row. So you can flatten in a row and e-wrap a row, and what that does is that gives you a larger size but keeps the tightness in there, okay? And I'll do that a lot more often these days than I used to. And it also, that was the only problem I found with my patterns, is when I e-wrapped everything, the shaping got kind of lost because it's such a loose stitch. So if you e-wrap a row and then you knit a row, you get the tightness, but you keep the shape. I mean, you get it larger, but you get to keep the shape. Okay, at this point, you'll want to knit in the round for 6 rows, and what that's going to do is create the bottom area of your, I'm going to do it this way, the bottom of your bunny, okay? And this is going to be seamless, so make sure you start getting your stitch markers ready. We're going to make this really easy for you, okay? Because this is going to take a lot of short rowing, and we're going to be doing some sock techniques in here and that kind of thing for the snout and the upper part of the back leg thing going on, alright? So keep that in mind. You're going to need your stitch markers to make this easier on you, okay? So go ahead and pause the video and complete 6 rows of knit, and then I will come back and show you the next section. Alright, okay. And what I like to do after I finish my 6 rows is actually pull on the drawstring. It makes it a little easier to see. Okay. And you just pull it where it's a little snug, and as you do your animal, you tighten it up more as you go. Okay. Alright, so now we want to work the legs. Okay. I'm going to tell you to stitch marker this stuff. You don't have to, but this is how I think it's going to be easiest for you. Okay. So I'm going to skip this first peg and move to the next one, and I'm going to mark this notch. Let's see if I can get it close enough. Okay, I'm going to mark this notch right here on this peg. I'm going to send a stitch marker through it, okay? That's going to be a stitch I'm going to pull back up onto the peg later. Alright. And you're going to do that periodically on your appendages, which is all your legs, your tails, or things like that. Okay. Alright, so we're going to count over 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to put that on the 6th one, because we only bring the outer ones back on these, which is the legs. Alright. So, just gonna, let's see if it'll focus. Just gonna stick it through there. Alright. So, that is your first leg. Your foot, basically. I'll do a full leg. Alright. Then what you want to do is count over here. So you have your first peg here, and you have your last peg here, and you're going to have two pegs between your legs. Alright. And you're just going to add your stitch there, just like you did with the other side. And count over 6, starting with your stitch marker peg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to add the stitch marker to your previous stitch. This can be fun. But it does make it easier when you get ready to work with it. Okay. Now we need to do the tail. And while we're only doing the outside stitches to be brought back on the feet, we'll need it on all 4 on the tail. Okay. So we have what? Make sure we got everything right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Should be 3 stitches in between the legs. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You should have 4. Okay. So it's 3 stitches, and then put a stitch marker on the 4th stitch from your last marker. Alright. And to get yourself set up on both sides where you can just fill in the space, here's your last stitch marker here. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, and put a stitch marker on the 4th. Okay, and then what you want to do is you want to fill in the space between these 2 stitches. So you want to put stitch marker between these 2 stitches too. So you should have 4 right beside each other. Alright, and this is your tail. You have one row, you have single rows that have a lot of detail work on them. Alright, and then you have rows where it's really simple. But the detail work is a lot of times your shaping. Okay, so I've almost got my prep work done, which it is time consuming, but you're trying to keep yourself from sewing. If you hate to sew but you want to make stuffed animals, this is for you. You'll learn that short rowing and bringing things back on and all that makes it easy to do this. Alright, now you've got your loom set up to do a foot, a tail, and everything in between. Alright, and you still want plenty of stitch markers to work with. Okay, so first things first, what we want to do is we want to knit that first stitch. Okay, at this point we're going to knit over 6 pegs, and we're going to be working between the 6 pegs for short rows. So here's row 1. And you're going to see this in parentheses on the written pattern. Alright? Okay. And here is peg 6. Alright, then you're going to slip that stitch and work your way over to the other side. Alright, and you're going to do this a total of 10 rows. Now, on other animals, you might find I'll do 20 rows for a longer an actual leg, but because we're doing a foot. Alright, so I want to mark my slip stitch over here, and the reason being is I'm going to be picking it up and putting it back on to the loom periodically when I'm doing the other half of the foot. Alright, let's go ahead and put it on that slip stitch on the very end where the peg 6 is. Okay, and then you're going to slip that first stitch, and this is going to be row 3. Okay, so you've completed 2 rows, you've got row 3, you're going to do a total of 6 rows, and I've got to show you how you're prepping yourself so that you can do the other half of this foot. Alright, and I just like to bring that stitch holder over. Alright, and then we want to go in and make sure that we put a marker on the slip stitch over here, okay, because we're going to be needing to see what change we're going to be bringing back on the sides. Alright, okay, so go ahead and pause the video and complete your 10 rows while adding your stitch marker on your slip stitches on the end, okay, and that way you'll be ready to be adding those back. Alright, so pause the video, complete your 10 rows, and I'll show you how to do the other half of the foot. Okay, I've completed my 10th row, and you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 stitch holders on this side. That includes your original one, and you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we have 5. Alright, while you may have done 10 rows, you're technically going to be doing 8 to complete the other side. Alright, let's see if I can get this closer in. Alright, so we finished over here, and what we want to do is we want to hunt down the first chain that is closest to this peg, okay, and that's this one, you can see. Alright, so what we want to do is we want to add it back to the peg and take the stitch marker off, and then you're going to knit your way over and knit 2 together. Right, then you're going to come over here and you're going to find your closest stitch marker, which is this one. And you're going to add it back to the loom, okay, just the end stitch, and then you're going to slip that first stitch, and you're going to be knitting your way over, okay. And then knit the 2 together. Okay. And then you want to go and you want to hunt down your next closest chain to the peg, which is this one. And you're just going to add it back to the peg. Okay. And what this is doing is closing off the leg. So you have an appendage that is completely closed off with no seaming at the end of this. Okay? So you're going to knit your way over, slipping that first stitch, and then knitting the 2 together. Alright. Now, you come back over here, you want to find your next closest to the peg. You want to put that on. the end peg. Then you want to slip the first stitch and knit your way over. It can happen when you're knitting two together. Alright, then you're going to come back over here, find your next closest stitch marker, put it onto the peg, take it off, and there's going to be a version of this for the arms. It's going to be a little longer for the arms, but it's the same concept. Alright, so then we're going to knit our way over, slipping that first stitch over here. And then you're going to knit the two stitches together. Alright. Then you're going to come over here and you're going to find your next closest chain. You're going to add that stitch marker to the end peg. Slip the first stitch, knit your way over. And then knit the two stitches together. Okay. You're going to get your next closest chain, which looks like it's your last one. And you're going to add that to the peg. Okay. You're going to slip the first stitch and knit your way over. Knit the two together, and then you're going to find your next chain, which is right here, and you're going to add that stitch back in there, and slip the first stitch and knit your way over. And you can do this any length you want. If you want it longer, you can make it longer, but I just want a little foot showing through. Alrighty, and knit two together. At this point, we're going to bring our original loops back, which is how it's going to be written. And these are your last stitch markers, and you're just going to take those and pull them up and put them onto the end stitches, making sure your working yarn's out of the way. And what this is doing is actually finishing closing off the leg or the foot. Okay? Alright, and then you're going to knit that peg rather than slipping it like you've been doing. You're actually going to knit those two stitches together, and then you're going to knit 4 and then knit those two stitches together. And that actually completes a little foot. Alright, a little appendage. Alright, so we knit those two together. And lo and behold, you see a little hole, a little appendage. See? There's your little foot. Alright? That is how you do a leg or a foot without having to do seaming. You can do, if you want it like a regular appendage, you probably would want to do 20 rows and then work your way back and do the same thing. Alright, now we're going to do the next section. We're going to knit over 3. We're going to do our next section of appendages, and most of this shows up as parentheses, and it'll say leg or tail or whatever. Okay, so we're going to be working between these 4 stitches at this point, and we don't have to add stitch markers to every slip stitch, because what you're going to do is you're going to close it off by bringing all 4 of these stitches back, and you're not going to have to worry about adding things back. So on things like short little ears or tails like this, you don't have to add things back like that. Okay, so what we're going to do is, to create a nice cute little tail, we're going to do 12 rows of knit between these 4 stitches here. So I'm going to slip that first stitch and we're going to knit 3. Okay, slip the first stitch and knit 3. And I'm going to do this for a total of 12 rows. So we've done 1, 2, 3, and then when I come back, it'll be 4. And so you're going to do that for a total of 12 rows. Okay. Alright, so go ahead, pause the video, complete your 12 rows, and then I'll show you what the next section is. Okay, so we finished our last row over here, and at this point what we want to do is keep that working yarn out of the way. We want to add our stitches back that we marked off, and when we knit these two together we'll have closed off our tail. Okay, and then we're going to start with that peg on the end there. We're going to knit two together, and then knit two together, knit two together 4 times, and you'll have created an itty little tail. Alright, and as you can see here, there is your little tail. So you have a foot here, and you have a little tail here. It's completely closed off. You don't want to do the same thing here like you did here with the tail, because you need to be able to stuff that. We don't want any seams, so we want to be able to stuff that. Okay, so we have to knit 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're ready to start the other foot, which is going to be worked exactly the same as like we did over here. So you'll want to get yourself back to the part of the video where I start showing how to do this, and you're going to repeat that right in these next 6 stitches all the way up to adding these back, and then what you'll do to finish off is knit that last stitch to complete the row. Okay, so when we come back we'll be actually ready to start part of the body. We're going to be doing a few normal rows, and then we'll be ready to do another short row section. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, complete the other foot, and that'll have completed your feet and tail row, and then we're going to be doing a few rows for the body, and then we'll be starting to show the indentions for the top part of the back legs for the rabbit, so that it looks more like a rabbit. Okay, as you can see, you've got a foot here, and a foot here, and a little tail up in here. Okay, and then you can usually pull a little bit more on the bottom area. Okay, and you can start to see the bottom of your little animal here. Alright, at this point we're going to be doing 7 rows, and then we're going to do a row of short rows, alright, to complete the upper part of the bottom legs. Alright, so what you'll want to do is you'll want to go in and you'll just want to knit your way around, nothing special, for approximately 7 rows, okay? Alright, so go ahead and pause the video and knit your way around for 7 rows, and then when we come back, I will show you how to do the upper part of the back legs for the rabbit. Okay? So pause the video, get that much done, and we'll come back and do the next section. Okay, as you can see, you have your little indentions here for the top of your legs, and at this point what you want to do is you want to knit for another 7 rows, and on those extra wrap and turns, make sure you don't get a hole, just knit the 2 stitches over. Okay, so go ahead and knit for 7 rows, and we'll be ready to come back and start the arms. Okay, we're to the next section of the body. We've completed our legs, tail, we've done our 7 rows, and now we need to do the upper part of the back legs, and we're going to expand it with a few short rows. So what I've done is I've placed stitch markers. I've counted over 2 pegs and put a stitch marker on the 3rd peg. Then I counted the stitch marker peg and counted over 8. Then I put a stitch marker on the 8th peg. Then I went back over here and I counted 2 on the other side of the starting point and put a stitch marker on the 3rd peg. Count the stitch marker and over 8 and place another stitch marker. This should leave you 4 stitches in between your stitch markers on the back side. We're going to do a short row series like doing a sock. I'm going to do it in like a German short row, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit over 2. Okay, then I'm going to knit over my 8. Okay, I'm going to do a half pull back, and then knit over to my stitch marker. And I'm going to tell you right now, once we do this side, it's the same on the other side. It's a complete repeat. And half pull. And knit to just before the last half pull. So there's our half pull. Here's the next peg over. So you should have 2 half pulls at this point. You're going to knit your way over. Here's your first half pull. You're going to do a half pull on the next peg. And then you're going to knit your way over. There's your 2. Do a half pull. And then knit your way over. And do a half pull. You should have 3 half pulls and then 2 single stitches in between. Now this is where it's easy. You're just going to knit those 2 over, then you're going to knit your half pulls over. Okay. And do know that can be a challenge if you do too tight of a half pull, so don't do too tight of one. Alright, now then we're going to knit our way over, so we're going to knit 4 over to our other side. And what this is doing is it's just adding a little bit extra to the top of the leg in the middle of the body, so it looks like there's a little bit more of a back leg. Alright, now you'll see if you watch my Instagram or my Facebook, you'll have noticed that it looks like there's these little pockets that were on the side of the rabbit when I did previous versions of this. Because everybody kept on mentioning that, I didn't think that that was working out well, so I just wanted a slight increase at the bottom so that when you stuff it, it's just subtle, it's not distinctive. Okay, so at this point you're going to do the exact same thing on this side. So you're going to knit your way over to your first stitch marker, and then you're going to half pull. So here's your stitch marker, half pull, and then knit your way over, to the other stitch marker, and half pull, knit way over to before the half pull. Here's your first half pull, so here's your next half pull. And what this does is it keeps it really tight so that you don't have any holes showing up. So that is the purpose of the half pull. Okay? Alright, and there's your last half pull, so you're going to knit there, and do another half pull. Don't do it too hard or you won't have an easy time getting them over. Alright, there's your next 2, so you're going to go to the next one, half pull, and so you're going to have 3 on this side, and you want 3 on the other side. And half pull, and then you're going to knit 2, and then you're going to knit your half pulls over. So you're going to knit 3 half pulls over, then you're going to knit 2. Okay, then you're going to knit your way around. You're going to knit 2, You're going to knit your 3 half pulls over. 1, 2, and 3. Then you're going to knit your way over to your other side where your half pulls are and knit those over. So if you notice in the video that you're suddenly going from white to pink, that's all that's happening, is changing up what I originally had, because I didn't think that it was working well. But most everything else is staying the same. So if you see a change up, that's why. So you knit those 3 half pulls together and then knit your way over. There you go. So what you'll have noticed is you'll have done a little increase, and when you go to stuff it, it'll be a nice subtle expansion there. Nothing major, it's more subtle. I think subtle is going to be better. So at this point, we've completed the upper part of the leg. Okay, at this point you want to go in and you want to do 7 rows of just knit all the way around. So go ahead and pause the video and get that much done, then when we come back we'll be ready to start on our upper arms. Alright, we've done our 7 rows, and you can kind of see where your little indentation is there at the top of the leg. When you go in to stuff it, you'll see it'll hit the top of the leg there. Okay, at this point what you want to do is you want to do the same thing that you did with the feet here. You're just going to do a lot more rows, and you're going to do it with the arms, and you're going to place it a little differently. Okay. So you're going to count over 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. And then you're going to place in a, actually it needs to be on the previous one, a stitch marker here, like you did, just like you did with the feet. And you're going to do the same thing for the little arms. Alright, you're going to count over 6 from the stitch marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and you're going to put that one on that previous stitch there, like you did with the feet. Just going to be in a little different spot, and you're going to do more rows. So I'm not going to spend as much time focusing on the arms as I did with the feet, because it's the same method that you're doing, you're just doing a little bit more. So you're going to count 1, 2, 3 from your end peg, so 1, 2, 3, and then put a stitch marker on your 4th previous stitch. Count over 6 and put 1 there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and put 1 on the previous stitch there. Okay. Now what you're going to do is you're going to be working short rows just like you did the feet. Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to knit your way over. So you're going to knit 3. Alright, then you're going to start working back and forth between these 2. And remember, you want to add your stitch markers on your slip stitch. So this is going to be row 1. Okay. You're going to be slipping that one, so you're going to be adding a stitch marker to it. Alright. And then this is going to be row 2. You're going to be slipping that stitch and adding a stitch marker to it. Alright, so you're going to go back and forth for 16 rows, okay? So this is going to be row 3. Okay, so go in and pause the video and get 16 rows done, adding a chain, adding a stitch marker on your slip stitch, so that when we come back we'll be ready to start doing the other half. Okay, so 16 rows, and then we'll come back and start adding the other half of the arm. Okay, I know this looks like a clustery mess. When you do your last row, you don't have to add a stitch marker over here. Alright, so you should have a total of 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, you should have a total of 16 stitch markers, and that includes the original ones you added, because you're only going to be doing 14 rows back, and that's when you're adding back in your chain. So you want to go in and find your closest one to the peg, your stitch marker closest to the peg, and you're going to add that chain back in. And then what you'll do is you'll still continue to slip the first stitch, and you will go over and you will knit the two together when you get to the end. So you will knit the two together. Alright, you're going to come over here, you're going to find your first stitch marker closest to the peg, take that off, slip the stitch over here, and knit your way over. Okay, and you're going to do this all the way down. Okay, so find the next closest one to the peg and add it. Take your stitch marker off. Alright, so you know the process. Go ahead and continue your 14 rows of adding the chain, knitting over, knitting the two together, alright, until you're ready to add your original stitch markers back, okay? And then you know that works a little differently. So go ahead and pause the video, add your chains back as you work the other half of the arm, and then we'll be ready to finish up. And then I'm going to show you to the next arm, and I'm going to tell you to just do another arm. You're going to go back to this part of the video to do the other arm, okay? Okay, we finished adding our stitch markers back, and you can see there is a little arm there. And what you want to do is you want to add bring your original loop back on those stitch marker pegs. Go ahead and take those off. And then you will start with that peg you finished with, knit the two together, and knit your way over. Knit the two together, and knit 6 over to your other arm. Okay. So at this point we're going to be doing the other arm. As you can see, there is your arm. So you have your foot, the upper part of your leg. When you stuff, it'll show up better. Then you have your arm, so you can start seeing all your appendages that you're making. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to start back at the part of the video that shows the start of the arm, and do the exact same thing in the next 6 pegs. And then what you'll do after you complete the arm, you'll just knit your way to your starting point. So when we come back, we'll be ready to do the neck area, and you're going to need a scrap piece of yarn. I would suggest it be white, and you're going to be weaving that through all the stitches so that you can cinch it later to separate the body from the head. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, get your arm done, finish the row up, and then we'll be ready to come back and do the next section. Okay, so that's done. As you can see, you have 2 arms. There's your leg area there. Alright, we're ready to do our 3 rows of knit. Okay, so what you'll do is you'll pause the video and get 3 rows of knit done, and then when we come back, we're going to insert our spare string here to go in through all the stitches so that when we're done, we can cinch the head after we stuff it and everything later. Okay, let's go ahead and pause the video, complete your 3 rows, and then we'll come back and I'll show you the next. Okay, now we want to take our spare string and we'll get our working yarn out of the way. And what I like to do is insert it the same way, and what I'm doing is I'm going to stick, you can do this purlwise or knitwise, it doesn't matter, you're going to be cinching it and you're not going to be able to see it. Alright, so I'm going to take and I'm going to act like I'm doing a true knit and just pull the tail all the way through. Alright, so I'm going to do that all the way around the loom. We're not taking the stitches off, so don't take the stitches off. This is just for later when we go to finish up our body, okay? This is how you're going to do it without having to thread in anything, alright? This is how you cheat every single step of the way. Well, it's not cheating, it's, you know, doing it the way where you don't have to do a whole bunch of extra steps at the end. Alright, we're at the last one, and we'll have woven in all our ends there, and then what you want to do is you can take and you can either pull it through here, or what I like to do is just shove it inside where the body is so it's out of the way. Now at this point you're going to go back to what you were doing. You're going to knit the stitches over all the way around, and this is going to count as row 1. Okay, so basically you're going to knit for 2 rows, okay, and then we're going to start the snout area, and that's going to look a lot like the upper part of the leg here. You're going to be doing some short rowing, okay, and that'll create the snout, and that's actually really easy. We're going to be working over 10 pegs, but we're going to be working back and forth between our starting and finishing point. Okay, let's go ahead and pause the video and get your 2 rows done, and then I will go in and show you how to do the snout area. Okay, we're ready to do our snout area, and we're going to be working between a total of 10 stitches, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So pull that stitch off, the stitch marker, and then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pull the stitch marker off, and put that on there. Okay. And we're going to be working a little snout area. And what we want to do is we want to start by going the normal direction. We're wanting to knit our way over to the 5th, where the stitch marker is. Okay. And then we're going to do a German half pull. Okay, so we're going to half pull. And we're not going to pull it too tight because we want to be able to actually pull that over later, okay? And at this point, what we want to do is we want to knit our way over to the other stitch marker. And yes, you're going back and forth over your starting and finishing point, which is fine.
Alright, and you're going to knit to the stitch marker, which is right here. You're going to do a German half pull, but not too tight. Alright, then you're going to knit your way to the peg before the stitch marker. Okay, there's your last one. We're going to knit this peg before your last one, and we're going to half pull, so you should have 2 half pulls here. And a half pull really is just pulling the yarn back and front, and you'll notice that it seems to be just halfway pulled right back into the middle of the peg. But don't pull it too hard, because if you do, you're going to have a hard time pulling it back over later. This is a form of short row decreasing. Okay, we're going to knit our way over and do the same thing on the other side. So there's our last one. So we're going to knit the peg before it so that we can do a half pull on it. Alright? And then what we want to do is do this again over here for a third half pull. So there's a third half pull. And we're only going to do 3 half pulls. We want a kind of shallow snout, but something a little bit more distinctive than nothing. Okay, we're going to do another half pull over here, and that does your decreasing. And you should have 4 single stitches between your half pulls. At this point, we're going to be increasing. So what you want to do is you want to knit over, and then you want to knit the half pull over, just one. Then you're going to start with the peg you finished with, unknit your way over to the next half pull. Okay? Alright, so you're going to knit that half pull over. And it's going to be a little snug. Okay. There. You can do a wrap and turn if you don't feel comfortable doing a half pull, okay? I just find it's a little tighter and it looks good when you're doing the short rowing area. Okay. So you're going to knit this way over again, starting with the peg you finished with. And you're going to knit the half pull over. You should have 1 half pull left, starting with the peg you finished with. And knit your way over. Knit your next half pull over. And at this point, what you're going to do is you're going to just knit your way around. Okay, so you're going to go in and knit over your half pull here, and then knit your way around and knit over your other half pull. Okay, and that should complete your snout area. Okay, so you'll knit your way around and then knit over your other half pull. Then after you finish this row, you're going to want to do 6 rows of knit for your face. So there's your other half pull, which should be at your stitch marker. And you're going to knit your way, and then you're right back to your starting point, and you'll have created a little snout area. It's very shallow, but you can kind of see what you got going on here. Your back legs, arms. Alright, so what you want to do is go ahead and pause the video, and you want to do 6 rows knit. Nothing special, just knit for 6 rows. And then what we want to do is we want to come back and we want to start setting up for where we want to do our ears, which is going to be on the back half of the loom. Okay, and you'll count over 7 stitches and place a stitch marker on the 8th peg, and you'll count over 7 stitches and place a stitch marker on the 8th peg. Okay, because you should be working 10 stitches total for your ears, but what you'll be doing is 5 stitches for one, 5 stitches for another. Alright, so pause the video and get your 6 rows done, and when we come back we'll start working on the ears.
Okay, I have finished my face, and you can see my snout here. Alright, and now we're ready to set up for our ears. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to count over 7 stitches, and on the 8th stitch set up a stitch marker on the previous stitch, and you want to do that over the next 10 pegs, and then the rest should be empty, which is 7 stitches over here. And we're going to be bringing back all these 10 stitches because they're going to be doing something very similar to like the tail here, but we're going to be actually closing it off too. So we're going to be doing 20 rows, and then we're going to do a little short row tip to the ear, and then we're going to be working our way back down the other side. Okay, so what you want to do after you set that up is you'll want to knit your way over, and then you're just going to work the 5 pegs, not all 10. Okay, so 5 stitches is going to be making up your ear. Alright, so we've reached our first stitch marker. We're only going to be working 5 stitches. Okay, so you can count those over. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, then you're going to slip that first stitch and knit your way over. You count that as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm going to place a stitch marker on each stitch here at the end. And you're going to do that just like we did with the leg on the sides. You're going to keep adding a stitch marker to the end, and you're going to do this for a total of 22 rows. So this is row 3 that we're working on. You're slipping that first stitch at the beginning of each row. You're making sure you knit it at the end. Okay, and you place your stitch marker on the outside so that you can continue to work on the inside. Alright, and this is 4. Okay, we'll place 2 more stitch markers in here, and you're going to do this for a total of 20 to 22 rows. If you want shorter ears, 20. If you want longer ears, 22. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and complete your 20 to 22 rows, and then we'll be ready to do the tip of our ear, and then work our way back down to the base of the ear. Okay, and keep this in mind that when we go to start doing the second ear, you're repeating the exact same thing in the next 5 stitches for your other ear. So keep this in mind, that what you do here, you're going to be repeating in the very next 5 stitches. Alright, so pause the video, get your 20 to 22 rows done, placing your stitch markers on those slip stitches, and then when we come back, we'll be ready to go in and work at the very tip of the ear. As you can see, I got a ton of stitch markers here, but I'm ready to do my short rows and start adding these stitches back. So what I want to do is I want to knit, slip, knit 3, then I want to slip, knit 2, and then knit 1. Alright, then you're going to knit 2, and then you're going to knit 3, and then you're going to knit over. And then slip, and then knit all the way back over, and then you're going to start adding stitches back. Alright, and what we've done is created a rounder tip to the ears. Now at this point you're going to find your closest stitch marker, which is this one, and you're going to add it back. And then you're going to slip the first stitch, you're going to knit your way over, and then knit the 2 together. Then you're going to find your next closest stitch, put it back on, slip, knit your way over. Continue this process every time you go to the other side to add a stitch back until you have no more. So you go to the next closest one to your peg, add it in, knit your way over, knit the 2 together. Continue this back and forth all the way down until you're down to your last 5 stitch markers that you're supposed to be adding back, alright, to close the ear off. Okay? So pause the video, get that much done, and we'll come back and finish up the ear, and then you'll need to do a repeat in the next 5 stitches. Okay, we've completed that. Look at that ear, nice little tip. Now we have our 5 stitches that we want to add back. So all we're going to do is we're going to pull those back. Okay, make sure I stay in line. So this is real easy. You pull the stitches back on like that. Then you just take the stitch markers out, and then you're going to go in and knit the 2 together all the way across. And of course you hear I have a little helper today. Alright, so what you want to do at this point is you want to knit both stitches together over the 5 pegs.
Okay.
After this point, what you want to do is repeat exactly what we just did in the next 5 pegs. So, you're going to repeat the very same thing we just did over here in these next 5 pegs. So start knitting your way over, adding a stitch marker. You do that for 20 to 22 rows, and then you work your way to your point, and then you work your way back down, and this creates an ear. Alright? So get the other ear done, and then when you're done and you add the stitches back and you knit your way over, then go ahead and knit your way to the starting point, and then we'll be ready to finish up the head, okay? So pause the video, get that much done, and then we'll come back and finish up our actual knitting section of this, and then we'll be down to actually assembling, putting stuffing in, making a face, that kind of thing. Okay, at this point, what you want to do is we finished our ears, and you want to, there's your ears, and what you want to do is you want to knit your way around for 4 rounds, and then be ready to do a drawstring bind off, okay? So pause the video, complete your 4 rounds, and then we'll be ready to do a drawstring bind off and start ready to putting all this rabbit together. So you'll want to get your polyfill out and be ready to start stuffing your body, okay? So pause the video, get your 4 rows done, and then we'll be ready to do a drawstring bind off. Okay, I've threaded my needle, I've turned my rabbit inside out. And what I want to do is do a star pattern to close it off. So here is my end. I'm going to go straight directly across, and this is where you're going to kind of draw a star. So up, down, over, and over to the other side, over to here. Alright. And what you want to do is pull it. And what that does is close at the bottom. Okay? And then you just want to be able to tie off. So just send the needle through, partially through like that. And then you want to tie it off. Okay? At this point, you want to go in and turn it right side out again. And you'll want to go in and stuff your body, not your head. And you know where your body is because you'll have, like, see, I have a purple line going on there. So I'm going and stuff my body with polyfill. You can stuff it fairly firm. The way I've tried to make this, you should be able to stuff it fairly firm. I suggest you stuff your legs first. All your limbs. Okay. Right. So, pause the video, get your body stuffed. We'll come back and we'll close up the body and do our touches on the head that start bringing personality to our bunny. Okay. And then we will be going from there. Alright. So pause the video, get your body stuffed, and we'll come back. Okay, we've stuffed our body. You see we haven't stuffed our head. And what we want to do is we want to find our 2 strands to pull for our head. Make sure that our stuffing is below that pull point. As you can see. I'm going to pull it fairly snug, because it's what's going to separate your head from your body. And then you just want to do 2 half knots to close off the neck. Okay, and you'll shove that down in there. And then at this point, you'll probably want to go ahead and start adding your nose and your eyes and that kind of thing. Okay. Now, I find it's going to be easiest. You find where your decreased areas, you'll see where it stops there. You'll probably want to add an eye right there, and a nose right there at the tip. We're definitely going to do an eye cinching, and then once you add your eyes, we're going to stuff. Now, if you have some areas that show some holes or something like that, you can go in with a single strand and just kind of close those up some, but you really shouldn't have much in the way of holes. So at this point we're ready to add a face, and I'm going to use safety eyes, but again I'm going to add my eyes more to the side of the head, because a real bunny has eyes that are more on the side of the head, and I'm going to add a little nose to the end. Okay, let's go ahead and pause the video, add your facial features to your safety eyes, then we'll be ready to stuff, and then we'll be ready to close up the head and cinch the eyes and do any final finishing touches, which there shouldn't be many. Okay, as you can see, I've added my safety eyes and I've added my nose. I've not stuffed anything yet, but that's what I'm fixing to do. So, again, if you are wanting to make one thing and you don't want to have to go buy a big old bag of polyfill because you're not into making stuffed animals that much, take an old pillow that you might have around the house, go in and dismember it, and then break up the polyfill nice and neat. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to find where your string ends. You're going to go just above it where you find that strand there. You're going to start to pull it. See if you need to add any more to the head. We're going to cinch the eyes, okay? So while they might be bulging out now, they're not going to be when I'm done. Okay? I want to make sure that head is nice and stuffed. Then once we pull that inner cord, what we're going to do is pull the outer cord. Alright. And then what you're going to find is you're going to stuff the eyes in like that. Okay, and there's your ears. And at this point, it's time to go in and shape the head. And I'm going to thread my needle with my tail. Okay. And That's why I cut a long tail for the most part, is so I can go in and not have to cut so much, alright? So I'm going to pull that as tight as I can. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this through the bottom of the eye. Okay, I'm going to send the needle through the bottom of the eye as best I can. Okay, I'm going to pull through without attaching ear. Okay, I'm going to pull through, then I'm going to send it through the other side, okay, and I'm going to do right under the eye on the other side, okay, and then I'm going to pull that kind of snug. I'm going to do this on both sides of the eyes, okay, so I'm going to go back, I'm going to come back over here, I'm going to go above the eye. Now normally I go through the back of the head, but because rabbits tend to have the cinching on the sides of the head, to try to keep with a more realistic thing, we're wanting to have it do like that, okay? So then we're going to send the needle back through, we're going to cinch the other half of the eye, we're going to pull it, and then what I'm going to do is as I go in and push this through, I'm going to push it through to the back of the neck area where you're not going to be able to see it. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of pull it snug. And as you can see, there is your eye. Now, what we want to do is we want to kind of cinch that snout a little bit. And so what we're going to do is we're going to send that through to the center of the snout. So through here, and you're going to send that through. Okay, and then you're going to send it back through to the back of the head. Okay. And what this is going to do is it's going to cinch it down and create more of a snout area. Okay. And then there's your little nose. Now if you want it to indent more, what you can do is you can weave in around that snout. Okay. So if you want this to go and have more of a standout kind of snout, what you can do is you can go in and you can weave your way in and out all the way around the snout area, and you'll see it because it's your decrease area. Okay, and you can just weave it in and out all the way around. Trying to stay in the camera. I always have a hard time when I get to this. Okay. You can just kind of weave that in and out. I guess. And do that all the way around. I guess. And then what you'll be able to do is create more of a snout area. And this is mostly where you're doing shaping if you want. You don't have to do any of this if you don't want. Okay? Okay. Alright, then you can kind of pull that a little bit and create a little snout area. If you want. If you don't, you can take it out. You don't have to. Now let's see, you have a little opening that showed up through here. What you can do is you can take this tail through and you can grab that bottom. Oops, lost my tail. You go through and you can just kind of tighten up those areas if you need to. You may not have to, but if you need to, that's not difficult to do. What you're going to do is you're going to take that needle through and you're going to send it through here I'm going to pull through. Right, then you're going to grab part of a stitch here. You're going to kind of work your way around so that you don't have any holes showing. And then you find out if you have another hole you need to fill in. It's front and back. Looks like there might be one there. And then what you want to do is send it through the original thing. Go to the back if you need to do it in the back. Okay. Send it through there. And you'll see you're closed up that area there. Okay. Alright. Then you can just do the same thing over here. Send it through in such a way that it closes it off. And honestly, I'm not seeing much else. And so what I'm going to do is pull that and snip. There. Okay. That is what your tail can do. It does all the shaping. So there's your little bunny. Alright. And that is how you make a seamlessly cute bunny. No seaming. There's your little tail. And I'll provide a link below where you can get these cute little eyes and nose that you can just snap in so you don't have to do a whole bunch of embroidery. Okay? That's how you do it.